It is said that we are the product of our times, but at each plateau in our lives, we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors and our teachers as we perceive the present and plan our future. And so it was with Paul Chesebro. In celebration of his life and all that he accomplished, it is instructive to look back on his life and heritage and reflect on what there is about his family and personal history to help us understand and appreciate the impact of his influence on our lives, and why, because we are privileged to have known him, that what we do with our lives is part of his legacy. Paul Ridgely Chesebro, a ninth-generation descendant of William Chesebro, the founder and first settler of English lineage in what is now Stonington, Connecticut, was born in 1905 in a Mystic, Connecticut farmhouse owned by his maternal grandfather, and in which his mother also had been born. The farm, about 150 acres, had fertile soil, but was quite stony, which in a sense he would later say foreshadowed much of his future. Paul described his father Joseph, like his ancestor William, as being a hard-working individual, powerfully built, and committed to the welfare of all aspects of his farm and family. A calm and patient man, his even-tempered and genial personality won him many friends and admirers, and he was sometimes referred to as the kindest and strongest man in the town of Groton. His mother, Sarah, was a very loving, caring person, yet strong-minded and quite determined. It is no surprise that Pa and Ma, as he called them, were especially eager to have him receive a good education. His parents enrolled Paul in the Buckley School in New London, an all-boys high school with a deserving reputation of maintaining a very strong academic program. Paul recognized his opportunity. It explains the motivation necessary for him to make the nearly 2-hour trip by bicycle or horse and carriage, a trolley car ride, and a ferry boat ride, all followed by an uphill walk to get to school. There, too, the support and encouragement he received from his teachers and headmaster, who, consciously or not, would prove to be a role model for the educator and leader that Paul eventually would become. On the recommendation of his headmaster and faculty advisors, Paul accepted a scholarship to attend Amherst College. Paul arrived on campus in September 1922, feeling, as he would say, the loneliness of a pea-green freshman, without a friend and away from home for the first time. One evening, the students gathered together for a song fest in College Hall. Hesitatingly, he joined in, feeling a little presumptuous at singing the hallowed college songs. For the first time, his loneliness vanished, and he felt part of the group, part of the Amherst family. These two were formative years for Paul, not just for his academic achievements, but for the personal development opportunities they provided. Paul gave special credit to his chemistry professor, Ralph Alonzo Beebe, for teaching him much more than the subject matter. He also taught him the importance of teachers giving their time to students, as well as patience in developing their competence and confidence. He found that showing others how to solve problems provided him with a great deal of satisfaction, and it set the stage for the real drama in his life, a career in education. Paul also learned an important lesson in personal chemistry the day he chanced to meet his roommate Howard Lane's sister on her way over to the chapel to hear her brother sing in the choir. Paul thought it would be a nice gesture to join her. Several years later, Florence became his wife. Professor Beebe also influenced him toward graduate work in that field at his alma mater, Princeton. And in 1926, Paul was granted a 3-year Rockefeller Foundation scholarship. Paul's association with the Hun School began within days of his arriving in Princeton when Dr. John Gale Hun, founder of the school, offered him a part-time job as a study hall proctor for junior school students at his newly acquired Edgerston property. It was 1929, the economy in the Hun School growing by leaps and bounds. Paul was ready to begin his doctoral thesis when John Hun asked him to accept a position of assistant principal at his new campus for 150 upper school boarding students constructed on Stockton Street. Due to the Depression and subsequent decrease in enrollment, the first of Paul's several associations with the Hun School lasted for only 2 years. The next 5 years, he would later say, were as stony as any field on the old farm in Mystic. He managed to support his growing family by taking in some university students as boarders and tutoring them in his home on Van Deventer Avenue. He also found some teaching opportunities at 2 other tutoring schools in Princeton. In 1936, Paul returned to the Hun School as a physics teacher and Mr. Hun's assistant, and remained with the school until 1940, when he was offered a position at Princeton High School teaching academic math and coaching the tennis team. Meanwhile, the Hun School was facing a series of new financial difficulties brought on by the Second World War and Dr. Hun's death in 1945. In 1950, Paul was asked to join the Hun Board of Trustees, and despite their best efforts, by 1951, enrollment had dropped to about 80 boarding and day students. It was at this, the school's darkest hour, that the trustees asked Paul to take over as headmaster. With his leadership, the school's enrollments increased, as well as alumni support. With the first major facilities expansion in more than 30 years, construction of a new dormitory, dining hall, kitchen, and lounge started in 1958. The rejuvenation of the Hun School had begun. Enrollments grew rapidly, and the school gathered momentum. Another dormitory, academic center, gymnasium, and a student activities building were added as the school continued to grow. The faculty was strengthened and curriculum expanded. Paul's support of a strong athletics program was evident in his 7-year role as president of the American Schoolboy Rowing Association. Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt, mother of Hun alumnus Elliott Roosevelt, honored the school by christening a new shell in 1959. Paul's faith in the rightness of John Gale Hun's vision and education philosophy were confirmed. A former faculty member poetically referred to Paul as a captain assuming command of the good but foundering vessel, Hun School, who righted her, masterminded in every way her refitting, and then sailed her into glory and renown on the oft turbulent sea of academia. In honoring Paul, we at the same time honor his wife Florence, who, side by side with him, breathed into the Hun campus a climate of caring and brightness of spirit, a spirit that aided and abetted the whole learning process. Keen in the memories of Hun alumni who were seniors during that time are the roast beef dinners she prepared for them at the Chesebro home on Moore Street. Paul's and Florence's contribution of countless volunteer hours to help various community groups, civic endeavors, and agencies had a considerable impact as well. Paul's participation at many levels as a member of Rotary International was second only to his love for and leadership of the Hun School. In 1971, Paul was the first member of the Princeton Rotary Club to be named a Paul Harris Fellow, Rotary International's highest recognition for distinguished service above self. In 1973, Paul was named the Princeton Area Chamber of Commerce's Man of the Year. His and Florence's combined efforts were often jointly recognized as well. In 1980, they received the Gerard B. Lampert Community Service Award, and the American Heart Association in 1983 granted them the association's Hearts of Gold Award for their years of distinguished service. When Paul moved to Scottsdale in 1991, he continued his active participation in their Rotary Club activities. He also instituted a weekly speakers forum, tapping into Phoenix and Scottsdale's considerable resource of speakers, including politicians like Senator Barry Goldwater and Sam Campana, the popular mayor of Scottsdale, and sports luminaries like Joe Garagiola Jr. and Harmon Killebrew. Paul was no less active when he moved to Hendersonville, North Carolina in 1999 to be closer to his family. He started a speakers forum there as well and took up the game of pool. His playful personality repeatedly won him first prize for best costume at the Halloween costume parties where he lived. Paul's many contributions to the Hun School continued to be recognized through Hun-sponsored birthday celebrations, starting with his 90th.
And I always made it a point, whenever any one of them had a problem, whether it was a faculty, a staff member, or a student, to take time out and talk with them, because communications is a very important element. And I still consider the Hun School, the members of the Hun School, the students, the faculty, the administration, the alumni, is my family. They've always been my family, and they will continue to be. And I've cherished that and will continue to do so.
In 2000, an even larger gathering met during Hun's Alumni Weekend to celebrate his 95th birthday. "There are a lot of old faces here," he quipped, "but none of them as old as mine." During his years at Hun, Paul was also a day-to-day cheerleader for the school. Literally leading cheers was one of his favorite activities, as he encouraged the students and faculty to give me an H, give me a U, give me an N, and his 95th birthday party was no exception. With Paul's annual trip to Princeton becoming more difficult, subsequent parties were held each year at his new retirement community in Hendersonville, North Carolina. In the early months of 2005, plans were made for multiple events to celebrate Paul's 100th birthday, including these bits of videotaped greetings and best wishes for a happy birthday.
Hi, Dr. Chesebro. We wish you a happy birthday from the Hun School. I and others who knew you when you were here and worked with you and considered you as a mentor or a friend have gotten together to personalize birthday wishes for you. I've known you for 47 years of my life, a vast majority of my life, and you've had a profound influence on me, on the school that you and I are a part of, and society in itself.
Hi, Uncle Paul. It's me, Sherry. You remember me. Of course you do. I'll be seeing you this summer, I hope, for your party. But I just wanted to say with all my heart how much I love you and how happy I am for you on this big event.
To coin a phrase from an old friend of mine, you know who this is? This is Herb Hogler, of course. And I'm with some of your good friends here in Stonebridge, just outside of Princeton, wanting to wish you happy birthday. Pay respectful heed to the original words of a sage, but the deeper meanings are in the echoes. And your echo is loud and clear here in Princeton, and I'm sure in Saudi Arabia and in the West, and for sure in North Carolina. Happy birthday.
Hi, Paul. You remember your old next-door neighbor, Chet Strout? Happy to be here to wish you another birthday, and as I look back over the years of our friendship, I have many kind memories.
Well, Paul, happy 100th birthday. And if I got a good idea for you, I'll come down there to North Carolina, and you and I can go and make a parachute jump. Let's do it. Many happy returns of the big 100th.
Still with hope that he would make it, he watched those greetings and best wishes with his family the evening before he died. June 20, 2005, many would say in words of celebration of Paul's life, marked the end of an era and a life full of love for his family, for the Hun School, and for the communities in which he lived. One person, upon learning of his death, echoed the feelings of many when she wrote, "Some say that we measure a man's life through the work that he has done. Still others say we should measure it by the lives he has touched." Regardless, I think all who knew him will agree that Dr. Chesebro's life was a success beyond all reasonable expectation, maybe even his. An educator to the end, I will remember his last words to me and the lesson he wished to give. Make your life count for something. Make it count.
Thank you.